You won't believe who just got fired from the Department of Justice. Attorney General Pam Bondi just made a move that has Washington absolutely losing their minds right now. And I'm going to tell you exactly who got the axe and why this matters more than you think. Before we get into it, hit that subscribe button because this story is developing fast and you're going to want to stay updated. What this means for the entire country is massive, and honestly, the timing couldn't be more critical. So let's get right into it. The shocking firing announcement, the shocking firing announcement. Attorney General Pam Bondi just terminated a federal prosecutor in Miami. And this isn't your typical personnel change. This prosecutor had been in their position for years, working cases that directly involved investigations into the previous administration's political opponents. What makes this termination so significant is that it happened without the usual 30-day notice period that's customary in these situations. What caught everyone off guard wasn't just the speed of the removal, but the fact that this prosecutor had publicly criticized the current administration's approach to law enforcement in several blog posts over the past 18 months. But here's what nobody's talking about. This firing is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the massive restructuring happening inside the Department of Justice right now. The hidden pattern of DOJ restructuring, hidden pattern of DOJ restructuring. Since taking office, Attorney General Bondi has quietly reassigned or removed 47 federal prosecutors across 12 different districts. That's more personnel changes in the first 90 days than the previous 3 attorneys general combined over their first year. These aren't random moves either. Each district that's seen changes has one thing in common. They were actively pursuing cases that involved allies of the previous administration or investigations into conservative organizations. Internal memos show that Bondi's office has been reviewing case files from the past 4 years, specifically looking at prosecutorial decisions that might have been influenced by political bias. What you're not hearing about is how this connects to a much larger investigation that's been running quietly in the background for months of the weaponization investigations. Right now, there are active investigations into 17 former DOJ officials who served during the previous administration. These aren't small-time administrators. We're talking about senior prosecutors, division heads, and policy advisors who had direct influence over major cases. Documents obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests show email chains where prosecutors discuss the political implications of their cases before making charging decisions. In one particularly damning exchange, a prosecutor wrote about how pursuing a specific case would help the cause during an election year. What makes this even more significant is that some of these investigations have already resulted in referrals to state bar associations for potential ethics violations. But there's something even bigger happening that ties all of this together. And it involves names you definitely recognize. The Comey and James investigations. Former FBI Director James Comey is now facing a grand jury investigation into potential perjury charges related to his testimony before Congress in 2018 and 2019. Specifically, investigators are looking at statements he made about the origins of certain investigations and whether he knowingly provided false information under oath. The investigation has been active for 8 months, but it only became public knowledge 3 weeks ago when subpoenas were issued to several of Comey's former associates. Meanwhile, New York Attorney General Letitia James is under federal investigation for mortgage fraud allegations that go back to 2019. Federal investigators have obtained property records showing discrepancies between the stated value of her properties on loan applications versus their assessed values for tax purposes. What's interesting is that both of these investigations were actually initiated during the previous administration, but were quietly shelved until now. And that brings us to the question everyone should be asking. Who else is on the complete target list? The complete target list. Beyond Comey and James, there are at least 11 other high-profile figures currently under DOJ investigation or review. California Senator Adam Schiff is being investigated for potential classified information leaks during his time as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. The investigation focuses on whether he improperly shared classified briefing materials with media outlets between 2019 and 2021. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton had his home raided by the FBI last month. with agents seizing documents and electronic devices related to his book publication and his handling of classified materials. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is facing a federal review of his office's prosecutorial practices, specifically regarding the selective enforcement of laws based on political affiliation. The review includes analysis of over 200 cases from the past 3 years. Each of these investigations represents a significant shift in how the Department of Justice is approaching accountability for officials who may have abused their positions. But what's really shocking is how the legal authority for all of this actually works to the constitutional authority behind it all. The Attorney General has absolute authority to hire and fire any U.S. attorney at will without cause and without notice. This power comes directly from Article 2 of the Constitution and has been upheld by the Supreme Court multiple times throughout history. In 1979, the Supreme Court ruled that U.S. attorneys serve at the pleasure of the president and can be removed for any reason, including political disagreement. This means that every single one of the 93 U.S. attorneys currently serving could be replaced tomorrow if the Attorney General decided to do so. Historically, new administrations have replaced between 30 and 50 U.S. attorneys within their first year. The current administration is actually moving slower than several previous administrations in this regard. During the Clinton administration, all 93 U.S. attorneys were asked to resign within the first 6 months. The Obama administration replaced 72 U.S. attorneys in the first 18 months. What makes the current situation different isn't the number of changes, but rather the stated reason for those changes and the investigations that are accompanying them. And this is where the opposition's hypocrisy becomes crystal clear. The double standard exposed double standard exposed. When previous administrations replaced prosecutors, the media called it normal personnel changes and administrative housekeeping. When the Obama administration fired all Bush-appointed U.S. attorneys in 2009, major news networks described it as the new president implementing his vision for law enforcement. When the Clinton administration did the same thing in 1993, it was covered as a routine transition of power. But now, when the current administration makes similar changes, those same media outlets are calling it authoritarian overreach and an attack on judicial independence. Beyond the media narrative, there's a documented pattern of the previous administration using federal law enforcement to target political opponents. Between 2021 and 2024, there were over 200 federal investigations opened into conservative organizations, religious groups, and political activists. IRS audits of conservative nonprofit groups increased by 400%, while audits of liberal nonprofit groups decreased by 42%. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are documented statistics from the agencies themselves. Federal courts dismissed 27 cases during this period, specifically citing prosecutorial overreach or political motivation. But here's what really matters for everyday Americans who aren't political insiders. What this means for the country. This restructuring of the Department of Justice represents a fundamental shift in how federal law enforcement operates. For decades, career bureaucrats have operated under the assumption that they're immune to accountability as long as they claim to be acting independently. That assumption is now being challenged directly. The principle at stake is whether elected officials or unelected bureaucrats control the direction of federal law enforcement. What we're seeing is a reassertion of constitutional structure after years of bureaucratic drift. This affects every American because it determines whether law enforcement operates based on equal application of the law or based on political considerations. If prosecutors can target people based on their political beliefs while protecting others who commit the same acts, then the rule of law becomes meaningless. The current administration is betting that voters want accountability and equal justice, not a two-tiered system where political connections determine who gets prosecuted. Whether this approach succeeds or fails will shape American law enforcement for the next generation. The real test will be whether these investigations result in actual accountability or just political theater. And we're about to find out which one it is. So, what do Autry think about these massive changes happening at the Department of Justice? Are we finally seeing real accountability, Or is this just the beginning of something bigger? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I want to hear what you think. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next.